and welcome to the finale. Yes, round 12, the finale of the F1 2018 Equal Car Career Mode, and it takes us to Brazil. Brazil, which is the track which has decided many a championship, notably most of those in the early 2000s. And coming into this, we have three contenders. Only three people can mathematically win the championship, those being Lewis Hamilton on 129 points, Sebastian Vettel on 119 points, and Charles Leclerc on 117 points. So, as always, if you're new around here, well, I hope you're not, because this is the finale after all. I just retire at the beginning of qualifying, and I will spectate all of the runners to see who's doing what. So you can see already, Valtteri Bottas, Hamilton, Ricciardo, and Verstappen. So both Red Bull and Mercedes doing really well. But of course, Hamilton, the only one in the championship fight, and Leclerc and Vettel are outside the top 10. So Hamilton made just the easiest race of all time in order to claim the championship, because both his rivals are now, well, slowly creeping their way back into the top 10. As you can see, Vettel 10th, Leclerc 11th, but it's actually between the Red Bulls and the Mercedes right now, who literally cement the top four. We're done with Ricciardo in P1, Hamilton P2, Verstappen finally doing well in the wets in P3, even so I would have thought he would be right at the front, but you can see he's interchanging with Bottas right now, as Vettel still finds himself in 10th place and Leclerc still 11th. But of course, even if that doesn't come to fruition, that battle, we say it looks like there's going to be a really good battle for P2. I think the main battle really to focus on, apart from that, would be the battle between Perez, Alonso and Valtteri Bottas for P4. So right now, Alonso out of the points in qualifying, as Vettel is actually climbing up the order. He's already up into P8 after being about P11, P12 a few corners ago. So Vettel will limit the damage, but Hamilton will be crossing the line in P2. Vettel looks like he's going to get P8 for the time being, as Perez and Bottas will line up side by side. Of course, same two battling out for P4 in the championship. The Red Bulls a bit further behind, I don't really think.
19. Yeah, I'm 19. Because I put a dry setup on.
Okay, is it a dry race?
Yeah, it starts on inters, and then in about 10 minutes it'll dry out.
Oh, so really, the last real interchangeable race we saw was, of course, at Spa, which was arguably the greatest race at the of the season, full stop. So if you haven't watched that, I would definitely recommend you do so.
3 seconds off the pace.
So who's 3.3 seconds off the pace?
Me.
Oh, 2.3 seconds. Pretty disappointing there. So I don't think you're going to be getting a win, as you were telling me beforehand. So, as I go through the order, you can see for the final race, it's Daniel Ricciardo who's going to line it up on pole. This guy's been really, really good in qualifying, along with Alonso. However, he's probably actually got the most front row starts of anyone, but he just hasn't been able to convert it into race wins. Like in real life, he's been unlucky. Hamilton does exactly what he needs to do, qualifying 2 frames behind Ricciardo in P2. And of course, that's where he needs to be in order to sort of seal the deal in the championship. He just needs 3rd or higher, and he's won no matter what Vettel finishes and where Vettel finishes. And right now, Vettel is in P8. As you can see, Verstappen as well, a further 10th behind Hamilton. So, yeah, Hamilton and Ricciardo really in a league of their own, ahead of Bottas and Verstappen. But you can see the top 2 teams, again, a further 10th ahead of Sergio Perez, who's ever been consistent in this career mode. I mean, he's probably the driver who's done the best compared to what I would have thought everyone else would have done. So he's done a brilliant job once again. Carlos Sainz in P6, Gasly P7. I think he was P4 at one point, so he dropped a bit off the pace. The 2 Ferraris, 8th and 9th, and he actually in a Toro Rosso sandwich there. So that should be interesting. Of course, you've got the Mercedes and the Aston Martin Red Bulls at the front. As we look down the order, you see Leclerc in P12. So he needs a hell of a comeback right now. Of course, we know it can happen. It's interchangeable weather. And Charles Leclerc did so well last time in Spa. And of course, Hamilton could retire. So these guys, Vettel and Leclerc, could still be in play. So I'm not writing them off yet, especially with the chaotic pit lane. Alonso P13, so he looks like P4 is out of the question for him. As we look right at the bottom, you've got our usual culprits, including Ericsson. Actually, Van Dorn and Hartley doing quite well this time, as the 2 Haas drivers really struggling. So as we move on to the race now, yeah, it should be really interesting. Shady Onyx once again starting at the back, so it should be interesting to see how he can make his way through the fields. But of course,
I've got a dry setup, so I'm going to be slightly quicker. As soon as it dries out. Yeah.
Okay, so we're starting on into
oh no!
for most of the race. So I don't know.
It said 0 minutes, and then after 15 minutes it's dry. But
well, it looks like we're definitely going to see some dry running at the end. But the question is, will they go for the one stop onto the to the slicks from the inters, or will they basically do the two-stop and go on another player of slicks? That is the question. And of course, we know Leclerc is normally good at that stuff, so he should be the one to watch as we wait for the 5 lights. And 5 lights are out for the final time. Away we go. We're going to cause another yellow flag. Of course, there's nothing much I can really do about that, because if I want to see the action into turn 1, I have to do that. As you can see, Ricciardo in P1 still ahead of Lewis Hamilton. So you look at the detail, you can see the only position change is actually Brendan Hartley on Kimi Raikkonen. As I say that, Pierre Gasly also gets a position over there, but you can see, as you can look at the telemetry and lap data now, you can see that Ricciardo still leads as Lewis Hamilton P2 just behind him, and Verstappen already a second and a half behind. So I don't know if Bottas gave him a real run for his money into turn 1, because they're already a long way off the front row. You know, the front row has been so dominant, but normally you don't see gaps like this already. I think it's just the nature of the center S's. When you go side by side, you lose a lot of time, as Hartley's found out the long way, the hard way. He's now a second and a half behind Sebastian Vettel after making that move on Kimi Raikkonen at the start. As Shani Onyx also finds himself up 1 position down at the back. But yeah, apart from that, not really many changes up front, and you're not going to get many changes in this midfield section. As Max Verstappen now tries to close back in on Lewis Hamilton. Of course, he really needs a win. He hasn't got a win all season, and as a result, he finds himself in P8, I think, in the championship, just behind his teammate Ricciardo. So both of them are battling it out really for the best of the rest outside the top 6 really. As you can see, Bottas versus Perez right now. Perez, I think 4 points ahead of Bottas. So right now, Perez will get that P4 if Bottas can't get the podium. This is Ricciardo actually gets the fastest lap of the race. So Perez doing exactly what he needs to do. But of course, we rarely see the finishing positions the same as the race, because of course the chaotic pit lane always shuffles the order. And of course, with interchangeable weather, we should definitely see a shuffling of the order, like we saw at Spa in that really chaotic race. Yeah, right now Hamilton doing what he needs to do, and I think he's going for the win. If anything, he's not really trying to consolidate his championship like he would do in real life. Of course, if you haven't seen the Mexico GP in real life, I feel like he just played it safe really to win the championship instead of pushing for a podium. But yeah, you can see now Hamilton keeping within the DRS of Ricciardo, but Ricciardo showing that Red Bull, even so it's equal cards, the Red Bull can be good in the wet as well, because him and Verstappen are doing quite well, and Verstappen's already pretty much dropped Bottas, who's now a second and a half behind. So there's quite a lot of gaps actually forming already, as yeah, there's 2 seconds separating second and fourth, and we don't normally see this, as the gap actually extends to 2.5 seconds. We don't normally see this this early on in the race, as my controller disconnects. But if you look down again, the orders get a bit of lag there, quite a bit of a lag spike, because you can see Verstappen actually loses quite a bit of time. Vettel's actually going to get signs, so it's actually helped out Vettel a bit there, as now Bottas finds himself within DRS of Verstappen. Of course, there's no DRS yet because of the weather, but I think everyone else has been neutralised, apart from the fact that I think Carlos Sainz has lost out quite a bit. He's lost out 2 positions, but he's not going to waste no time in actually trying to get past Vettel straight away. We know how much time he can lose through the DRSs, but Sainz makes the move on Vettel, and you can see Vettel losing a lot of time there. Of course, the AI just not able to really go side by side through that corner without losing time, and already Vettel losing 8 tenths. So Vettel, yeah, and he's actually coming under attack from Hartley as well. So Vettel not looking in a good position if he wants to win the championship. And Leclerc as well, he really needs to start making positions. As you can see, Grosjean versus Ocon right now, as Hulkenberg's really slow for some reason. As these two are trying to battle with each other, and Shani Onyx is just watching them right now. So the 2 Frenchmen go hammer and tongs for the height of P15. So yeah, I don't know why they're going so aggressive, but you can see they're still side by side, and Shani Onyx still watching them. Not actually close enough to make a move yet, but these guys, I think this is the main battle going on right now for P15, as Grosjean will get the move in the end on Esteban Ocon. As Ocon's going to try to fight back, but no, I think Grosjean's got the move. But no, I am mistaken, because here's Ocon. I mean, he's not had a good season this season, but he's going to try to make the move. But once again, he's actually been outdone by his fellow compatriot there. But as we look at the front right now, it fortunately looks like an anticlimactic end to the championship, because Hamilton is doing what he needs to do, and I don't want to jinx him, but unless he retires, I can't actually see him losing out in this championship. Of course, it looks so dire for him after Japan. Of course, after getting spun out by Vettel, I really thought he would be on the ropes, but he came back with a strong second place behind fellow compatriot. Vettel's out in the race. Oh my goodness, it's gone from bad to worse for Sebastian Vettel, and I don't even know if he can hang on to P2 right now, because look, although Leclerc isn't in the point, surely Leclerc, all he needs is P9 to actually get Vettel, and Hamilton looks like he's completely won this race, because for Leclerc to beat him, I think Hamilton needs to finish in the top 3, and then he's won the race. So he's doing that right now, and Leclerc also needs to win. Of course, if he doesn't win, Well, unless Hamilton retires, because all Leclerc needs is P3 that way. But even that seems out of the question. So, yeah, Hamilton looks like he's in a real dominant position. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to look at the battle for P4, which is currently going to be separated by only 2 points in this, if they end like this. Unfortunately, Alonso's pretty much out this race, but it's between Perez and Bottas. And Perez holding on to that P4 in the championship right now. P5 in track, just behind Valtteri Bottas. So, Perez, once again, doing a stellar job. But, wow. Final race, and just when we were expecting a massive climax, unfortunately it has been a bit of an anti-climax with Vettel retiring quite early on, as you can see Hamilton already trying to actually pester Ricciardo. As you can see, Verstappen set the fastest lap. Raikkonen's going to get Hartley as a result, of course, of Vettel retiring. Of course, I think Hartley and Raikkonen were actually just behind them, but yeah,
it's starting to dry out
already. It still seems like a lot of rain on my screen.
It's raining, but there's not as much. The track is just drying out.
Well, we could see a change.
There's just not enough rain.
As Charles Leclerc now finds himself in the points, of course, after Vettel retired, he did find himself P11, but now he's made the move on Van Dorn, and although he's got about 4 seconds to Hartley, we know Leclerc has pace. We know he's got good eye for strategy. I'm not going to write him off for P2 in the championship. Unfortunately, I do think it's all out of the question for the win in the championship, and if he can get the win from this position, I am going to be very, very shocked, because right now it is the Red Bulls and the Mercedes who are literally locking down the front. Even so, they are actually getting followed by Perez and Gasly in all of this. So Perez once again doing a really good job, but Bottas, even so he was helped by the lag spike, he's just not able to keep up with Verstappen. Of course, we know how good Verstappen's is in the wet. And of course, Hamilton also really good in the wets, and Ricciardo just quite good in general. So yeah, these two really holding up the front as he sets the fastest lap just to sort of prove me right. But Ricciardo, as I've said, he's not had a good season. Like in real life, he probably hasn't. I think his teammates been screwed up just as much, if not more, this career mode. But there's been a lot of times where he has had a front row start and he's failed to sort of convert it into a good result. And as a result, he does find himself level with Verstappen. So if we are going to reboot this career mode, I would expect Verstappen and Ricciardo to do much better than they have done. Even so, right now it looks like Ricciardo will get the better of his teammate, because I think they are pretty much equal in points, as Bottas falls actually to, outside 2 seconds of Max Verstappen. So he's looking like really vulnerable from Sergio Perez right now. Of course, if you look down the order again, I think Sergio Perez struggling to make it through the field right now. Of course, he said to me before the race he was on for a win. Right now he looks like he's on for probably at most P15. Even so, he's trying to prove me wrong as he's battling with Ericsson. I think he's made the mistake. Yeah, he has, and he's now behind the battling duo of the Frenchman. Even so, I swear you already had Ericsson, so he must have re-overtaken him.
Yeah, Ocon. I was fighting Ocon, and Ocon just shoved me off the track.
Oh, okay. Typical F1 2018 AI. As you can see, Bottas actually not quite far ahead, and he's got a bit of a gap to Perez, so Perez won't get him right now, as Ricciardo stretches the gap to Hamilton to 1.1 seconds. Ricciardo actually might be able to lead from the front. We've only seen this happen, I think, once or twice this career mode, notably the first round of the season where Hamilton was just able to pull and basically dominate that race. But we haven't really seen it. You normally seen the race decided after the pit stops. So if Ricciardo can pull a gap, as once again Ocon and Shady Onyx battling. But I think the other battle I want to focus on is Fernando Alonso, who's actually just about got ahead of Van Dorn. And I was talking about the pace of Leclerc. Leclerc's dropped these guys by 5 seconds in the last few laps. As Van Dorn finds himself being overtaken by Hulkenberg. So Van Dorn's looking up left, right and centre. I don't know if he's got a problem or if he's just a bad driver in general, because I think he's taken out a bit of Hulkenberg's front wing as he locks up and now gets overtaken. And now he's got the 2 Frenchmen to contend with. So once again, Stoffel Van Dorn plummeting through the field, as we're so used to seeing. And Leclerc, well, he's in no man's land right now, but if he can push, he can try to get that elusive P9, which will secure him, I think, P2 in the championship. Of course, P8 will get him ahead on points in Vettel, but he will be tied if he can get that P9. But right now, Vettel still has the edge in that battle for P2 by 1 point. But I think Hamilton, even so, he's dropping off the back of Ricciardo quite quickly now. He looks on for the result win. It depends if Verstappen's going to take him out like Verstappen's done with a few drivers in real life. But yeah, Verstappen, of course, looking for another podium to add to his miserable tally this season. I've got to admit, as you can see, the battle for P4 on track also beginning to hot up. And also, I think the battle for P7, Raikkonen has been able to close in on Carlos Sainz. They've dropped Hartley by quite a bit. And yeah, these guys are actually closing up to the battle for P4. So Raikkonen is doing a really good job right now. And if he can keep it up, he could still be in the fight. As Leclerc just continuing to slowly gain. As Shane Onyx now trying to pick off Grosjean. He's got Ocon. He's taking to the grass. That's never a good idea in this game. He goes wide. And
Grosjean red front wing.
The position. And oh yes, you can see Ericsson gets past him as well. So Shane Onyx with front wing damage. And Ocon's going to join the party as well. And he's just Shane Onyx not keen to let him pass. And Magnussen's going to get the pair of them. Kevin Magnussen. What a move. But Shane Onyx is going to defend the position once again, but Magnussen is not going to give up. Of course, Shane Onyx with front wing damage. Can Magnussen do the switchback? No, he can't. So I think Shane Onyx should be into the pits. And once again, one of his races ruined. But at least he got the one ring in Mexico, I suppose. Yeah, he's never really been in contention for the championship, unfortunately, due to bad luck. Meanwhile, as you look at the front, a 3-second gap between Bottas and the podium. So I was saying how the Mercedes and the Red Bulls look really dominant today. I take that back. Bottas is all over the place. And he's been like this most of the season. But of course, the only reason why he's in contention for P4 in the championship is because the amount of times he's been saved by the pit lane is just ludicrous. I mean, the pit lane has elevated him literally tons of positions, and especially in Canada. He won the race after literally being in P15 the whole time and then making the most of a carnage. Of course, he just overcut everyone and just found himself in P1 in the end. So, of course, right now he is actually getting harassed by Perez, who has been the faster driver all season. So Perez, of course, wanting to consolidate his P4 in the championship over Valtteri Bottas. As once again, Shane Onyx is actually not in the pit.
Oh my god!
With Magnussen, as he's actually been smashed off again. I don't know what happened there. As you can see, Ocon.
He goes in front of me and brakes.
Once again, Ocon.
He went straight in front of me and broke.
As, you see, Shane Onyx is actually going to dive up the inside of Ocon, giving him a bit of front wing damage. But yeah.
What? Ocon has front wing damage? Good.
So yeah, once again, but you can see people in the pits. I know this is going to be big news because of course we know of course there's lots of change in the pits, but it doesn't look like it's soft. It's actually another pit set of inters. So I don't know if these guys have made a mistake. Leclerc's staying out, and we know Leclerc's normally right on these sort of scenarios. Has Hamilton made a strategic blunder? You can see actually Hartley's in, so maybe they will bring Leclerc in next time. As actually Ricciardo maintains the lead, Verstappen's going to stay out for the overcut, which has worked so well in the past. But I think Ricciardo has an even bigger gap than he had before. So Ricciardo having a really good pit stop. And we've seen so many times the leader screwed up in the pits, but not this time. And Ricciardo will actually keep that P1 on track ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who is actually quite a long way behind now. So he might find himself outside the podium. But of course, still, he is in a really commanding position. Only about 8 seconds behind his championship rival Leclerc on track. And Leclerc hasn't even pit yet. So, yeah, even if things stayed as it were without Leclerc pitting, Leclerc would still not win the championship. So Hamilton looking very secure right now, as Leclerc's actually lost time to Raikkonen. So it's not looking good for Leclerc right now. As I say that, he gains a 10th, but you can see as well, Perez, I think P3 of the guys who pitted. I don't know if Van Dorn pitted as well, because if he has, he's benefited a lot. Because you can see Perez a long way behind Hamilton. As it was before the pits. I don't know if these guys have pitted. I don't think they have, because I don't think Shane Onyx has pitted. Alonso's pitted, so I don't think Van Dorn has.
No, he hasn't.
So, well, yeah, because he was plummeting through the order. So Hamilton and Ricciardo coming out ahead of some of the guys who haven't pitted yet. And you can see actually the rest of the guys in the pits, including Leclerc. So I think Leclerc's pretty much given up on the championship at this rate, because he is on the inters instead of the softs. So I thought he would have gone for a witty.
Load of people.
He might be on a witty strategy. I thought he would be on a witty strategy, but he isn't. As
I'm still on 30%. I ain't stopping.
Verstappen's actually going to come out behind Hamilton, so the overcut hasn't worked. And if anything, the undercuts worked. And for the first time in the season, the undercuts definitely worked, because Verstappen finds himself 3 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. And he's still got a gap to Bottas, as the top 5 remain as they were before the pit stops. The only guy who's gained is Kimi Räikkönen, as Brendan Hartley's also gained. I don't know if he's pit yet. If he has, then I'm pretty shocked, to be honest.
It stopped raining.
Oh yeah, you can see it has stopped raining. So Shane Onyx could benefit in all this, even though he still is P12, even without pitting. But yeah, you see Leclerc as well, P10. So it's not worked well for Leclerc. Still has gained a few positions overall.
I'm pitting now for softs.
You're pitting now for softs.
Softs or supers?
Supers can last to the end. Yeah, they can supers. So yeah, you can see at the front still. Ricciardo looking in a really good position right now because everyone's mirrored his strategy as he goes purple again, and Ricciardo has just been dominant this race, and it looks like Red Bull will finally get a win this season. I don't think they have all season, so finally they're doing well with that double podium, and it looks like it's fairly secure now because Verstappen is pretty much in no man's land, but of course Perez still right behind Bottas, so for once the pit stop's not actually shaking everything out, so quite an anticlimactic finale to say the least, as Leclerc battles for that P8 which he needs to jump Vettel in the championship. So I think the main battle right now is P4 on track, and of course P4 in the championship between Bottas and Perez. Of course both of these guys punching well above their rates. Of course they were rivals come 2016 when they raced in rival teams if you like, but yeah, as you look behind as well you can see Carlos Sainz all over the back of Hartley. Sort of the Red Bull trio, 7th, 8th and 9th, and of course just ahead of Leclerc, who's actually getting quite a lot on all of this. He finds himself only a second behind this train, whereas he was quite a long way behind Raikkonen. So Raikkonen has gained a lot, as I said, and he's actually on the back of this battle for 4th place, and you never know, he could finish 4th place from 9th on the grid, so that would be a really good result for Raikkonen. As you can see, Ericsson's also getting quite a few positions, and Ricciardo once again sets the fastest lap, and he is literally flying right now on the oldest tyres of everyone, or the joint oldest tyres, should I say. But yeah, he's doing a brilliant job. As you can see, Shani Onyx is on the softs, so let's see how that super soft. So let's see how that's going, and the answer is not very well. So as we go back to the front, you can see the top 4, of course, spread out as always. But of course, the battle for P4 is still quite close, as Raikkonen actually drops out of the second window of Perez. Of course, he was in for a short amount of time. But meanwhile, the battle for P7 is closing up as well. But unfortunately, I don't think there's any championship battles. Even so, Alonso is nearly back into the points. So he could still be in the battle for P4. I'm pretty much writing him off unless he can get a really good pit stop. But talking about pit stops, there's definitely going to be another pit stop because it's dried out. As I don't think Shani Onyx pit on the right lap, but it depends where they're going to call it. But there will be another pit stop this race. So there still is a chance. I mean, Leclerc needs to benefit hugely. He needs to gain about 15 seconds in the pits, and he needs Hamilton to retire. But that will actually get him the championship. I didn't think I'd be saying this. I thought it would be much closer. I thought we would see Vettel Leclerc at the front, putting Hamilton under pressure. Because, of course, all Vettel needed was P1. And if Leclerc was P2, Hamilton basically would have lost out the championship. But that's not the case. The Red Bulls and the Mercedes have been dominant. And, of course, Vettel has retired. So right now, I mean, he might not even get P2 in the championship, but Leclerc not doing what he needed to do in order to sort of cement that P2 overall, unfortunately. As we sort of look up the field again, of course we got the Red Bull B team trio of Hartley, Sainz, and Gasly. Of course, actually, Sainz on going to
DRS is enabled, by the way.
As DRS is now enabled, so nobody into the pits, which is quite funny, but I think we should see them all into the pits next time, so there could be a few double stacks at play. I think the main double stack will be the Toro Rosso boys, as they're so close together, but apart from that, everyone seems to be pretty much spread out. Of course, the biggest gap of all of them is the battle for P12. I don't know how Grosjean finds himself 11 seconds behind Alonso, but that's pretty bad, I'm not going to lie. As you see as well, we're going to look up the field, and all of these guys are expected to be into the pit. Let's see if Ricciardo is going to come on. Of course, he is on the start-finish straight now, so this should be a taster to see who will be where. As we see what Ricciardo's going to do, and sure enough, he is into the pits. I presume Hamilton will be into the pits as well. Yes, he is. Will Verstappen stay out? Of course, he did the overcut last time. No, he's in the pits. Of course, the AI actually rise enough to double stack when they need to this time. But of course, there's a big enough gap, so it should easily work. And these guys so far ahead of everyone else. Even so, actually, Perez is quite close, as all the leaders are in the pits. So unfortunately, the Toro Rosso boys will stack up. But yeah, all these guys should be alright. Even so, I don't know if Bottas will be held. He is held, but not too much in the end. Raikkonen seems to be held as well, as yeah, he's been held by quite a bit. Sainz also seems to be held. As we look at the front again, coming out the pits, Ricciardo has stretched his lead to 4.1 seconds now. As now the gaps between everyone in the top 4 is now 4.5 seconds. Bottas finds himself comfortably ahead of Raikkonen in the end, as Perez slips down to P6, and oh my goodness me, Perez at this rate will find himself joint 4th in the championship with Bottas, so he has some work to do if he wants to get back in this race. And Charles Leclerc, that finds himself into P9 of course, after Gasly had to double stack. Gasly's lost out, Charles Leclerc finds himself up 3 positions now, Alonso up 5 positions, and I don't know, Alonso could be back in the battle for P4, and Leclerc, all he needs is one more position, and he's got P2 in the bag in the championship. So, although Hamilton has pretty much run the championship at this point, it did go down to the wire on the final race, but unfortunately it has been anticlimactic on that part. But there has still been battles for other positions. We cannot forget that, and hopefully if we do reboot the season next season, we will see the likes of Vettel and Leclerc, and maybe even Alonso and Verstappen challenging at the front. Meanwhile, Alonso is on a charge. He's up 5 positions. We thought Raikkonen was the biggest mover, and pretty much he still is. But Alonso has trumped that. He's up 5 positions, and he's trying to make it a 6th on Brendan Hartley. And once he can get ahead of these guys, he's going to be on the back of Perez. And you never know, he could demote Perez out the crucial P6 he needs, because he's not too far behind him as he gets Hartley, and Hartley's going to have a compromise run into the S section, and Alonso, just like that, will get P7, even so Hartley actually gets quite a good run. I beg my pardon, as Alonso is actually going to find himself under attack, so he has to be careful. But Alonso goes defensive. Alonso's very wise about it, cuts him off, and now he's going to be searching for Sergio Perez. And Alonso, if he can get P4 in the championship, I'm going to commend him. Yes, he was in the championship fight up until he crashed out from the lead in Japan. Yes, he kind of arguably won the championship, but still, he's had lots of issues this season, yet he's still overcome them. And after starting 13th, I pretty much wrote him off for P4, but he's doing the business right now and finds himself behind Sergio Perez, who started the whole 8 positions ahead of him. As we look now to Charles Leclerc. Leclerc now all over the back of Hartley, and Leclerc now, like Alonso, gaining lots of positions. And if Hartley, if Leclerc can get past Hartley, of course Leclerc will be P2 in the championship, which would be brilliant stuff for the young Monegasque driver in his first season. Of course, in order to match his future teammate, he's pretty good considering Vettel's a 4-time world champion. And of course, he's beat Alonso as well, who's a double world champion. Even so, the same could go for Perez right now, because as it stands, Perez will still hold down that P4 in the championship alongside Valtteri Bottas. So, as actually we head on to the penultimate lap already. So, if Alonso is going to make some moves, he's going to have to do it now, as Hulkenberg sets the fastest lap of the race. Of course, it's been a good track for him in the past, Brazil, but unfortunately, just not doing a good race. So, unfortunately, he's nowhere near the front. Meanwhile, you can see Hartley now all over the back of Alonso, and Alonso now really needs to hope that Hartley doesn't make a move on him, because he needs to get Perez, and then he needs to somehow get Bottas, even though I think that's impossible now. But this race has whizzed by, and Hamilton is now only a lap away from being a 5-time world champion. Of course, he secured it in real life. Will he get it in the digital universe? Well, even if he retires, it's pretty certain now. I don't think it's possible for Leclerc to do anything, and Lewis Hamilton will begin his final lap in P2. And Ricciardo has dominated the whole race. Ricciardo's done what he needed to do, but so is Hamilton, and he now finds himself 5 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, who in turn finds himself 4 seconds ahead of Bottas, who turns now actually quite safely in P4. So Perez screwed up by the pit lane, and unfortunately won't be able to capitalise on Bottas being quite slow this race, as Leclerc now finds himself right behind Hartley. This is the move which we've been waiting for. Can Leclerc overtake Vettel in the championship? It's going to be close. He's closing in quickly. Hartley goes semi-defensive. Hartley's going to break quite late, but Leclerc tries the switch back, but it's not coming there. Hartley's wise to defend it, but Leclerc's going to get a good run, and my goodness, we could still see action on this final lap. Of course, Leclerc needs to line him up for the final straight, but it's certainly possible, as Ericsson now is going to try to make a move on Hulkenberg. Of course, Hulkenberg set the fastest lap, but he's been overtaken quite easily now by Ericsson. He finds himself into P13, so Ericsson's driven a good race, up 5 positions, but not as much as Fernando Alonso, who finds himself up 6 positions in this race, and he's now on the back of Perez. Can he spoil the Mexican's dreams, as Daniel Ricciardo wins the race, Hamilton wins the championship, but can Alonso spoil the hopes of Perez in getting 4th in the title? It's going to be close to the line. I think Perez might have this. As we actually get close to the line, Perez does have this in the end, and I think Hartley will spoil Leclerc's battle for P2, as Hartley does finish ahead of Leclerc. So Leclerc will have to face. Well, he will go on count back between him and Vettel. And Alonso, unfortunately, isn't able to get Perez. So Perez will also go to count back with Bottas. So 2 ties in positions. The battle for P4 tied. The battle for P2 tied. And to the line, Hulkenberg tries to get Ericsson, but it's too late. He's 2 frames behind in the end. So very close stuff in that battle. And that's the end of the race. And wow. I mean, yes, we didn't have a championship finale, which we were expecting. We expected maybe a closer fight for the win in the championship. Hamilton in the end getting it quite clearly. But yeah, P2 tied and P4 also tied in the championship. So interesting stuff there. And yeah, I mean, as you can see, Ricciardo now on the top step of the podium. Red Bull get their first win and their first double podium of the season. Of course, it looked promising for them in China, but ever since, they haven't been near the front. And yeah, it's sort of a good way to end the season for them. And hopefully they will claim a few positions in the driver's standings. As you can see, Hamilton now P2. He has won the championship. He did what he needed to do. As we as we head on to the final results, you can see it's Daniel Ricciardo in the end, ahead of Lewis Hamilton by 5 seconds in the end. He was 5 seconds ahead of Verstappen. He was a turn 4 seconds ahead by of Valtteri Bottas. So yeah, it's quite spread out with the top 4. Raikkonen again managing to get P5 from P9 on the grid. Nearly actually, I see Alonso getting P7 from 13th on the grid. The standout drive today as Hartley gets quite a good result of P8. Of course, he only really got the podium in Canada and hasn't actually done anything else this season. So finally getting points for him. And Leclerc manages to recover to P9 in the end. Even though quite disappointing considering Alonso's managed to outperform him from a similar position. And Sainz will round off the top 10. And as we head on to the driver standings, in the end, Hamilton makes it look quite easy with a 28-point lead over Charles Leclerc, who will actually overtake Vettel in the championship. I think that is because he's got more wins, if I'm not mistaken. I think Leclerc has got 3 and Vettel 1 or 2. So Leclerc will get P2 on his debut season. So even with a P9, he's able to do that. Valtteri Bottas, as I said, also joint 4th with Perez, but he actually beats Perez on countback as well. So yeah, I think that comes from his win in Canada. Of course, Perez didn't get any wins at all. And Alonso actually not too far behind these guys in the end. If he got Perez, it could have been a completely different story because Perez would have been P6, Alonso P5. So Alonso's still up there, even after quite a good comeback drive. And they're the only changes really in the whole grid. Like everyone else has maintained position, including Ricciardo, who closes in to within 7 points of Alonso. Verstappen, a further 14 points behind him. The Renault boys in the end not able to challenge the Red Bulls. Of course, they were quite close going into this race, but weren't able to do anything. Raikkonen gets P11, Shani Onyx P12, actually coming under fire from Grosjean towards the end of the championship. But that is the final positions as we head on to constructors. Mercedes in the end, quite dominant in terms of the win. Red Bull will overtake Ferrari at their death to get P2, of course, after their really good result there. They were actually coming under fire from Renault, but they've been able to catapult themselves into P2 with that double podium. And of course, after Vettel crashed, retired from the race, he sort of put his hopes of getting P2 into jeopardy, and his team's hopes of getting to P2 into jeopardy as well. As we look down, Charles Leclerc, P2 in the championship, manages to get Alfa Romeo single-handedly. Yes, single-handedly, because Marcus Ericsson only scored 4 points. So he single-handedly got Sauber into P4. Even so, Ericsson only got 4 points. That was the difference between 4th and 6th. Yes, 4th and 6th in the constructors. They were each separated by 1 point. Alfa Romeo, Renault and Force India, interestingly not swapping positions at all, but all within a point of each other, which is incredible stuff. McLaren only a few points further behind. And in the battle for last place, of course, Williams don't count because I wasn't driving. Toro Rosso overtake Haas at the death. So I don't know what Haas have been doing, but they've had an absolute shocker of a season. I would have expected these guys to be a bit further up than they were when you got the likes of Perez and the Renault's doing so well. But yeah, Perez, Leclerc single-handedly bringing their team to glory. And that's going to be it for this championship, of course. Thank you for joining us on this 12-race journey. And yeah, we hope to see you for next time. We may start a new season of this. We may even start a career mode. So if you wait for Shani Onyx to ready up and see the full tally, yeah, thanks for joining us once again this season. As you see, for the final tally, Ignore my Drivers' Championship. Of course, I didn't participate, so it says 20th. But yeah, as you can see, the full grid once again. So yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you very much for joining us on this journey, this investigation, if you like, to find the fastest driver on the game. It seems clear from the results it's Hamilton. Even so, I can tell you there's been a lot of retirements which have shaped things, and hence I think Vettel, Hamilton, Leclerc and Alonso have been the top 4 this season, really. And Bottas and Perez have just done really well to pick up the pieces. But yeah, that's going to be it. And thank you very much for joining us.